At our June 20th meeting, we had a letter from President of Council Slough read into the record about the franchise agreement with Hancock Wood in the city of Findlay. And what does it take to get that letter officially endorsed by council and sent to the Public Utilities Commission?
A motion and a second. I believe, wouldn't it?
I would move that the President of Council Slough's letter that was in our June 20th, 2017 council packet concerning the franchise agreement with the city of Findlay and Hancock Wood be adopted as by council.
Second, Mr. Schindeldecker. Discussion. Ms. Frischie.
Is that going to be adopted and turned into a resolution or ordinance that we're voting on? I know that Don had said it doesn't mean anything unless we make it a resolution or ordinance.
I believe the motion is just to authorize the mailing of it to PUCO, unless I misunderstood the motion.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand the motion.
That's it at the present time, but it's a good question for Don. Don, what and George, I mean, this letter was created at your request. So what is the manner that gets this to the Public Utilities Commission that in a proper manner that shows the support of council, if that so is council's desire?
Needs to be adopted either by ordinance or resolution, or adopted by a voice vote, registered in the minutes of the meeting.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a resolution.
No, there's a lot of things you do when we do one single resolution,
Okay.
so you could be doing by motion, but it's written that way. But
Okay. And that's in essence.
It's been approved and supported as an act of council. Then
Okay. And for the sake of Denise, do you actually have that in front of you? That letter? I actually have it if you want.
Somebody have it up there?
I have it.
I don't.
We want it read into the record.
Please.
Could you get it to our council clerk, please?
One more question while we're waiting on that. Reading it into the record, Don, does that roll every 2 years as council terms change, or they would have to redo that letter every 2 years?
Well,
As not being a resolution or an ordinance, is what I'm
No, I don't think so. I mean, you don't have to, even if you amended it by a resolution, you wouldn't have to keep redoing it every 2 years. You've passed it, and it's still on the record.
So it would show the city's intent, even though it's not a resolution or ordinance. That's all I want to clarify.
Well, the letter would reflect the vote.
You have a question, Mr. Niemeyer, before she reads it?
Well, why would we send a letter if we voted the ordinance? Why don't we just re-vote on the ordinance and pass it? The letter is not going to do crap. Mr. Walton already had the letter.
I'll second that.
What are we seconding?
I'll echo his
He
statement.
just asked a question. And I don't have the answer. I have no idea. The ordinance was defeated.
I just mentioned, what's the letter going to do?
I don't know if it's going to do anything. Mr. Russell asked that it be...
What we need to do is pass the ordinance we had tonight.
Mr. Wobser.
It's a good question, Councilman Niemeyer. I think what it would do was kind of allay some of the fears of some of the folks that voted the way that they did going forward. And what I would like to make a motion to amend this letter such that it would be signed by all council members.
Is there a second? Mr. Niemeyer, you second?
I'd like to make a motion that we...
No, we have a motion on the floor, sir. Is there a second to Mr. Wobser's? Mr. Russell, you second that?
Yes, I'll
Discussion.
I mean, if in essence he's amending my motion, I would second and approve the amendment.
Okay. we can have discussions on an amendment. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question would be that is if a member of council did not want to sign the letter, right? For
I guess that
whatever
would be your
reason,
prerogative.
or council members not in attendance tonight, how would that affect your proposal?
I couldn't answer that. Mr. Rasmussen will have to answer that.
Well, obviously, nobody's required to sign it. If it was a unanimous vote, that would show that at least 9 of you agree with that. The issue is you just don't have a majority of council voting either way tonight.
Okay. Mr. Niemeyer.
To my knowledge, the letter doesn't mean, like I said, crap.
Okay. Any further discussion? The motion is to amend the letter to ask council members to sign it if they wish to do so. Is that correct, Mr. Whoopser?
Yes, although I would tend to think we ought to force everybody to sign it, but I know we can't.
Okay. Is this on the motion?
Yes, it's still on the motion. So again, what Jim is saying, if it's a letter like Mr. Harrington said that not everybody is signing, does it mean at the paper that it's written on, or should we pass the ordinance if we're willing to readdress this? What's the difference, Law Director, on the ordinance versus this letter? Certifying this letter not as a resolution or an ordinance, so not everybody has to sign it, so only if 9 sign it, because I thought you said a year ago, like when Grant wanted to go down to the PUCO and speak on behalf of Hancock Wood, that it didn't really mean anything, because he could go down and talk, I could go down and talk, but we're just people. We're not passing legislation, so it doesn't really mean anything.
Unless you were authorized to go down there by council and present the case you wanted to present.
So, Don, help us figure this out. Either encourage, or I shouldn't say encourage, tell us why the ordinance that was voted down this evening again, even though it was a 5-4 vote, what's the difference between that and what's the difference between this letter? Clearly, legally, explain to us what the difference is to council between the legislation and the letter. Are we really voting our conscience and doing what's best for the community by doing the letter and not doing the ordinance?
I don't know your conscience. I'm the law director. I'm not all knowing. The difference between a letter is that whatever that you send in that letter is going to be what PUCO is going to see. And if you had enough votes to pass an ordinance, and by the way, it does take a majority of the entire board, just so everybody has those rules set, it's a majority of the entire board. So if you're short members, you still need 6 to pass something. That's the state law, so that's why that didn't happen tonight. So, moving away from that, the difference is the letter's going to say what it says, and that's a little bit different than the ordinance that has the language that Hancock Wood Electric proposed.
Okay,
More than that.
there was a motion and a second to amend the letter that's about to be read by our council clerk, read into the record. Go ahead, Denise, read the letter.
Sure.
Huh? I am sure.
Thank you for your willingness to meet with council several times over the last few months. Council values both AEP and Hancock Wood Electric as electric utilities both inside and outside the city limits. Franchise agreements are necessary agreements to have in place to service our community's electric needs. We appreciate both utilities' competitive rates and customer satisfaction that was shared by your customers. Our goal for the community is to make sure that the customer is able to get the best rates and service available. We feel that the PUCO is where changes and negotiations need to continue to take place because they manage the territorial lines. Because both utilities are good community partners, City Council does not want to decide who gets a customer if a piece of territory is acquired outside the standard process of the PUCO, and a case is taken to the Commission for final decision. Please let this letter be a reminder that we strongly encourage both utilities to follow the long-standing process of working out swaps through the PUCO and not using the overlap in territories as a way to acquire customers outside the standard process. Although we did not vote to change the Hancock Wood Electric franchise agreement at this time, and if the standard process we have followed for the last 30 years does not continue, we are open to readdressing this matter. Again, thank you for your service you provide to Findlay and Hancock County.
I got a question.
Mr. Niemeyer,
Halfway through that letter.
could you pull your mic up a little bit, please?
Halfway through that letter, it said, we as city council do not want to make a decision. So I think I'd like to maybe reconsider ordinance 2017-056 and give it.
I don't think the law director can correct me. I don't think you can reconsider an ordinance that's already been voted down. Can you?
Then why are we going to sign a letter?
The letter is a different matter than the ordinance. The letter was introduced last council meeting.
But right in that
I'm of
letter, it
opinion
says
we
city council does not
Can we
want to make a
reintroduce that?
decision.
Motion or that defeated ordinance?
You can move to reconsider. In old business still?
Yes.
Yeah. I'd say it's probably more appropriately done in new business.
Okay, we'll do, if you want to, we can do it in new business. Ms. Frishy.
On that letter is from a year ago it was sent. I think if we're going to certify a letter to be sending out, I think it needs to be updated saying we do.
The letter was dated last council meeting.
No, it wasn't. It was changed. They
second letter.
updated the date on it, but it was the same letter from a year ago.
The letter was dated last council meeting. What's the date on the letter? Anybody have it?
June 20th.
It is it not the same letter?
It's the same letter. It was dated last
I guess,
council meeting.
am I in the part, if we're going to pass this letter or certify this letter, can we amend some of the verbiage in it?
You can make an amendment to do so if you wish to do so. The letter is dated June the 20th,
The first letter was
2017.
dated May 15th of 2016.
And that's the exact same letter with the date change.
It may be the same letter, but the date of the letter is June the 20th, 2017.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to amend the letter to say after,
Didn't I already make
The-
a motion?
sorry, I guess there's a motion.
Didn't I
Right.
make?
What's your motion? Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to amend the letter to be more of a follow-up letter that would say, after the letter that was sent May 16th of 2016, stating that that city council wants Hancock Wood and AEP to play nice and follow the practice of the last 30 years. No, it's not. It's giving a warning again. I think the warning needs to be taken out, and it needs to be saying that we as city council do not want to encourage competition on the line.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second. Discussion.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Do I have to, it's my motion, my initial motion, do I have to consent to the, have my motion amended?
Anyone can make an amendment to any motion.
All right, thank you.
Discussion, Mr.
Yes.
I would like to suggest that, following up on Mr. Rasmussen's thoughts on reconsideration and new business, question for Mr. Walton. Is this time sensitive? If we found the time to get a quick council of the whole meeting between now and the next meeting or whenever, does this give you the abilities to do what you need to do? Or is there a time sensitive portion of this that we're not aware of?
It's not time sensitive as long as we don't lose another commercial load.
In the meantime, obviously. Okay. I would suggest then what I will do in new business then is submit that we reconsider or that we allay the vote that we took on this original legislation, and that we go back to one of the original or motions to table until we can have a council of the whole meeting and give some of the other members up here the ability to ask some questions that they would like to have answered, and that would change their vote.
Mr. Schindler, now we're talking about the amendment to this letter, that's all.
Understood.
Mr. Schindler,
I'll hold it till new business.
did you have something? Okay, we have a motion to amend the letter. You have the language?
I will get it off the tape.
Okay.
I can't remember all that.
Okay, it'll be the exact language as was suggested, right?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of, go ahead.
I'm not supposed to, will that letter then be presented at the next city council meeting for city council members' signature? I'm not going to sign a letter that's so generic at this point in time, with gray areas. I want to see it in its final revised form before I will endorse or not endorse that.
Okay. Mr. Russell.
I would withdraw my motion on the letter.
Who was the seconder?
I was.
Do you agree with the withdrawal?
I agree with that.
Okay. There is no letter officially we voted on to be voted on, so there is no amendment that needs to be done. Amendment will be defeated because the letter don't exist, at least as far as council. Do you have something, Ms. Frischie?
I have one more question because we were talking about tabling something, Don. Do we need to table anything since we voted on it, or can we bring back the ordinance yet a third time after a committee of a whole and start it all over again? I mean, what would be the point of tabling versus just bringing, or can we not bring it back?
Well, at this point, it dies, but
Yeah.
But can it come back to life?
you could, at a later meeting, move to reconsider something further, which would mean to bring it back up. You don't have to do it at this meeting, but you could do it at the next meeting.
Bring back the same ordinance, or we would bring up something different?
No, bring back the same ordinance to reconsider it again.
Can we just, tonight, under new business tonight, could I make the request if I had a second to ask for the ordinance yet again and then refer to committee?
Ask
Well, no,
for it again to be voted on again?
Ask for a new ordinance number and do it again and then send it to committee?
To reintroduce,
Yeah, I mean, if that's what they're talking about behind me.
reintroduce a new ordinance with the same language that was just defeated.
Yeah, and then send it to committee of a
I
whole.
think two council members can ask for an ordinance, can't they?
But then we have to go for 3 readings.
Well, it wouldn't have to because it's kind of the rules. Good.
I would second that,
Second, what, me?
yes.
You had the
Okay.
motion.
What's the motion?
I said under new business, I'm gonna ask for the ordinance to be brought back in as a new piece of legislation with a new legislation ordinance number, and then send it to committee.
Committee of the whole.
They don't wanna vote on it tonight.
I wanna.
I'm with you, but they don't want, they wanna discuss it.
What does it matter? It's not the first time somebody
It's not a motion.
Let's,
There's no discussion.
let's keep order here. Let's not be talking amongst yourselves. If you have something to say, raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you.
But you just asked what he seconded, and he seconded me for the first time. So you asked me what I asked, and that's what I asked, and you told us we could do that.
Right, but you just said it wasn't a motion. So you were just
Because you told me it had to be new business.
right, but it was just discussion, and so the chair just.
Is there any further old business? Okay, new business. Mr. Niemeyer.
I'd like to make a motion, we re-vote on ordinance 2017-056.
Is there a second? Mr. Watson, second. Any discussion on that? Mr. Wolfser.
I appreciate what councilmen are trying to do or doing on the revote. I have a feeling, though, unless I'm misunderstanding, that that's not going to change anybody's minds until we have the opportunity for them to get additional information, which they feel that we would need a council of the whole meeting to do that. And it would be great if somebody would back up that assumption.
I agree
Mr.
with that.
Harrington.
I confirm that and I support that.
Mr. Schindler-Decker, the discussion is on the motion to reconsider the vote that was defeated. That's the discussion, not on whether we have another meeting. Go ahead.
So they just motioned to vote?
Hearing no
It
further-
was not my intention to hold council hostage over this. And I mentioned to a couple of the members, if we do hold a committee of the whole meeting, regardless, I would vote in favor of this. But I sincerely, passionately believe, whether it makes any difference or not, that we need to hear from the Economic Development Department of the Alliance as to what their position is. Regardless of what they would say, I would vote in the future in favor of this legislation.
Ms. Frischi.
I talked to Tim Miley, asked for a letter from Economic Development supporting the community and not encouraging competition. And Economic Development does not want to get in the middle of this ordinance because they don't feel it's their job. I would be more than happy to have them come to council, but they are not the city. It's a separate issue. So I just wanted to put that out there.
The motion is to reconsider the vote. Any further discussion on that motion? Go ahead.
I would ask Councilman Niemeyer to reconsider his motion in lieu of making withdraw that and make a motion for a council of the whole meeting to discuss this. My question on this is, I know we can introduce new legislation, Don. That leaves can we actually annul the vote that we just had, or is that there for eternity? Because we're going to reconsider it.
Unless you want to reconsider it. That's where you're at now.
Okay, so we can reconsider that at a later date?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Niemeyer.
I think council should vote, not be in the middle, protect Hancock Wood Electric from cherry picking. We know it's gonna happen again. Maybe I was in business too long.
All right, the motion is to reconsider the vote of ordinance number 2017-056. All in favor of reconsidering the vote tonight signify by saying aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Frischi?
Aye.
Mr. Harrington? Mr. Hellman?
Nay.
Mr. Monday?
Nay.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Nay.
Mr. Schindel-Decker?
Nay.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Mr. Wobser?
Aye.
Okay, the
5 nays.
huh?
5 nay.
5 nay, the motion does not carry. Any further old business? Mr. Harrington.
We're in new business.
Okay, we just finished. Okay, new business. Ms. Frischi.
I would like to make a motion to reinstate legislation under a new ordinance number, for ordinance number, and I should have been ready for that. Does somebody? Ordinance number 2017-56 re-entered into the next council meeting under a new ordinance number and ask for a committee of a whole to start this process again.
Okay, let's do two things. First of all, it only takes 2 council members to ask for legislation. So you're one. Is there anybody else? Okay, Mr. Watson, the legislation has been asked for. Okay, now we can accept a motion for a meeting of the whole if you wish.
No, you don't need to vote on that. That's 2 council members, so you got the legislation.
No,
So
you
I
don't.
would,
2 council members can request legislation. We don't need to vote on that. Mr. Harrington.
And because you called on Ms. Frischi before myself, I was going to make a suggestion, not a motion, right? And for a recount, that we have a committee of the whole prior to any new ordinance number, that we invite the following individuals, somebody from AEP, obviously the Hancock Wood people, right? And their council, right? the Alliance and if any of those people choose to come or do not choose to come, that is on their, right? You know, whether Tim and his group decides they don't want to come, you know, that's up to them. If they decide they want to play neutral, that's their choice. If AEP decides they don't want to be in the middle of this and want to leave it to a PUCO, that's their choice. Obviously, Hancock Wood has been very vocal, and I commend them for that. Right? I think that further discussion needs to be made prior to a revote. I think you're tilting at windmills on this currently, and until a committee of the whole is held and that all sides of the story are examined, I think that that your outcome will be the same. I am open to changing my vote if I feel that certain things can be explained. Not only, I think Hancock Wood's done a good job, and I commend them, but I would also like to hear AEP's side of the story, right? And I'd also, some accusations were made against the Alliance tonight that I think were very troublesome, right? I guess it's a good word, and I'd like to hear their response to that also. And with that in mind,
when you start out, you suggested it was just a suggestion, not a motion.
Right.
Mr. Wobser?
Appreciate Councilman Harrington's suggestion on that. And by the way, they're wind turbines, not mills anymore, that we're tilting at on this side. So I think we do accomplish the same thing, though, John, by getting the legislation started. Worst case is it goes 3 more readings, so you've got plenty of time to have a council of the whole meeting, and I would suggest that we do call that council of the whole meeting to get this meeting, because everybody seems to want to talk about this some more.
Second by Mr. Russell. Is there a suggested date and time? We have a
President Monday is usually your job.
we have a fourth Tuesday on the 25th of July. Would that give time to round up all the parties?
Out of town.
You don't think it's time?
I'm out of town.
You're out of town.
I'm out of town also.
I guess we're all going out of town.
What do you have? What's anybody have in August? How about June, July?
Do you think we can do it before the next council?
Pardon?
Do you think we can start things before the next council meeting?
Well, you can have the legislation first reading whenever it's prepared, but it's going to take, unless the rules are suspended, it's going to take 6 weeks. So we have 6 weeks to have the meeting of the whole.
Councilman Monday, how about Wednesday the 19th, day after next meeting?
Will that, the 19th of July?
Is that?
Yes, sir.
Will that
July.
give time to get all the parties around?
I'm sorry, Mr. Bolton.
1:30.
I am scheduled to go to Orlando on vacation the 13th through the 23rd. And this,
Just cancel.
Hey, George, the mouse will be there.
but and I've got everything booked where I can't
No,
get out of.
don't interrupt his vacation.
No.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Make it a working one.
I just want to say, how long are we going to kick this can down the road?
Well, the motion is we have a committee of the whole, so
This is our 3rd or 4th one. Is there a limit on committee as a whole meetings? It's like me working for RE/MAX. You're working for Century 21, and one of us infringe on the other person's territory. Somebody would be mad.
Can the acting mayor suggested July the 11th. 7/11. Would that give everybody time to get notice, AEP, and seems a little short notice to me, but.
I would agree with that.
Mr. Wobser.
I'm good with that date. How's everybody else looking? Can we do it right after
Does that
appropriation?
work for you, the 11th of July?
Huh?
What time? Because I'm going to be in a board
4:30.
in Columbus on that day, but I can be back here by 5 at the latest. 5 o'clock.
Mr. Wobser. 5 is fine. If it's short notice, if we can't get the other entities here that we wanted here,
Would we continue to have the meeting, or would we revise it?
You probably have to, I would think you'd have to revise it. I don't think you want to have 2 committee of the whole meetings, do you?
No, I wouldn't.
I would imagine that if Hancock or if AEP can't find one person to attend this meeting on a corporation with this much notice, tough.
I would agree with that comment.
Okay, July the 11th at 5 o'clock, we'll have a committee of the whole regarding the new ordinance regarding the Hancock Wood AEP situation. So it'll be 5 o'clock.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there any merit in inviting the Public Utility Commission representative to attend that? I didn't ask whether they were going to come or not. I said, can we invite them?
No matter to me. I guess we as a council can invite anybody we want to invite.
Well, they've got staff people
Yeah.
there. I mean, Christ, for goodness
Mr.
sakes.
Wolfson made the motion. Do you have any objection to have PUCO people there?
Oh, the more the merrier. I mean, sure. No, it makes sense if they would come and answer
Yeah.
questions. Dennis, I agree. I don't know if they'll come or not.
I
But
don't know either, but I think it would be helpful to at
We
least
can ask.
invite them. They've got a
Don,
whole
can you
staff of
orchestrate
people.
that to
So
invite somebody from PUCO? Well, I wouldn't know who to contact.
So who do you want from PUCO?
A spokesman.
I mean, if it's a
staff-
hearing
a
officer,
staff
they're not going to
person.
come up. They're not going to come up here as a hearing officer and give you an opinion or discuss that. They're going to probably hear the case. So, I mean,
wouldn't there be a staff person there that understands electric utilities? I mean, don't invite a railroad guy. I'd invite somebody that understands public utilities.
I would echo Don.
Electric,
I tried calling the
they're not going to. They're
PUCO
not going
and I couldn't find anybody.
speak for PUCO. Their attorneys now. I'm assuming that they have an attorney and AEP has an attorney, and they can discuss with you the holdings in the cases and a lot of that. But I can't see PUCO, an attorney that works down there that would be, presenting a case or ruling on a case, coming up and discussing it ahead of time. I don't know who that person would be.
I think what I'd do is you could send a letter inviting, see if you get any kind of response, and then report back what their response is.
Mr.
I mean,
Monday,
I agree with you. I think it's gonna fall on deaf ears down there, but
Mr. Monday, I'll look it up and I'll send a letter. I will call somebody at PUCO. I'll take care of that.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
I'll let you know who we contacted.
Thank you, Ms. Frischie.
Can I add to the invite list? Maybe we should invite a commissioner since we're representing county on this issue as well. Well, but they weigh in. They don't do franchise, but Hancock Wood is city and county. Maybe we include them also. I would add them to the list, please.
It's an open meeting. Anybody can come. Any further new business? Anything else?
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify the record as well, is that the language in the ordinance is not my language. It is purely Hancock Wood Electric's language that was submitted to us. I just put it into the form of the ordinance.
Okay, we need to move on.
Well, I just have a question for Don,
Go ahead.
please. Did you review that document as our legal counsel, and is that okay with you, Don? Or are you saying that documentation is, the change to the franchise is not okay with you as the law director?
The language is their language. That's what they requested, and that's what you requested me to reintroduce. I never introduced that language.
So you, as our law director, communicating to council, is that a legal change that is allowable, or is it not?
It's what they're requesting so that they can probably go to PUCO to get a decision.
Is it
Correct, Mr. Walton?
It does two things. That is correct. And it also allows us to be able to serve in our territory like we've served 30 years prior to that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walton.
Thank you. Thank each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Reports of municipal officers and municipal